Cool. All right, welcome back to Worldhoppers, a collab channel where we talk about mostly all things fantasy, sometimes other genres like today. And all of the proceeds from AdSense and merch sales go to charity. So yeah, there we go. Have some right there.
Buy it.
I just added some new stuff too. There's
Oh.
Wally the world hopping narwhal is a little mascot guy. He's so freaking cute. He's on some stuff. He's got a little World Hoppers flag. But yeah, today we're going to be talking about some romance, which some of it might end up being fantasy romance as well. It could be fantasy, but not only. We don't have to limit ourselves to that. And we figured we would just go through some commonly used, not all of the tropes, but some commonly used romance tropes and just kind of vote on how we all individually feel about them, and maybe some books that we think do it well or didn't do it well. Just whatever, just discussing, We're loosey-goosey around here. All right, I have the banners all ready.
Love it.
Yeah.
And you guys are obviously going to have a lot more like examples and stuff than I will, since I'm still just a little baby noob romance reader. Haven't dipped my toes in a crap ton. So this one though, I mean, this shows up all over the place. Yep. Enemies to lovers. And I think I like enemies to lovers, but I've discovered I don't like it when it's like what was the one that which I don't know. Do you guys consider this? I saw some people say that pestilence is enemies to lovers. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I don't like this kind of enemies to lovers.
Yeah.
That was a lot.
When it's like torturer to lover, I'm like, no. Enemies like, oh, we don't like each other, or like we're on opposing sides of a conflict or something like that. I think I'm cool with. It can be fun, the tension and whatnot. But yeah, when it's like full on like torture, I'm trying to kill you to lover, I can't do it. What are you guys' thoughts?
Yeah, same. I definitely prefer like we're from rival families more than well, I'm going to torture you for information, but then afterwards I'm going to feel bad about it. Like, no,
I'm going to fall in love
with you. I'm literally not forgiving you. No, goodbye.
Yeah, I can't do it.
So I love enemies to lovers. I think it is a pretty classic romance trope that is across all subgenres. So I definitely say yay to that. The situations where I say like no to enemies to lovers, and this is something I've just discovered about myself recently, because I always thought I just loved it across the board, but I don't really like enemies to lovers in contemporaries that are like a regular contemporary with regular people, not like mafia or something like that. Because to me, it rarely ever makes sense why people are enemies. To me, then that's more like hate to love. Like, because to me, there's kind of a difference between enemies to lovers and hate to love. Just being as someone who romance is my main genre, obviously I have more minute look at it than things. And so like a high school couple or people at work, I very rarely believe that you're full on enemies with someone. So I tend to be like, what's your reason why you're enemies with this person? And it's like, oh, well, I misunderstood something they said to me one time and now we're enemies. And I'm just like, okay, no. So that's just something I've discovered that works for a lot of people. Like the hating game, that works for a lot of people. It's a cute story, but enemies to lovers I do love in fantasy or like paranormal the most. That's my favorite place to read it. That's
I was gonna say, you see a lot, I feel like, in just like general fantasy, like not specifically even like fantasy romance, but just like a regular fantasy story. I feel like there's a lot of enemies to lovers romances that will happen in the story.
Right.
Like we're from rival kingdoms and
right.
Blah blah blah. Now we love each other.
I actually, thinking about what I read, I do not read a lot of enemies to lovers. Not that I don't like the trope. I just think I naturally do not gravitate towards it. So I've read a handful, but like, I don't know. I'm more of a like friends to lover, especially like childhood friends. Like that's kind of my vibe that I usually walk into. So it's not that I dislike it. I just think I don't gravitate to it as much as maybe other people do.
Yeah. I think it's something that, like I said, I think it just pops up a fair amount sometimes. But so I don't mind it. But I don't think I don't seek it out. It doesn't strike me. If I see like that as like a thing in the synopsis, I'm not like, oh yes. It's kind of like, okay. Friends to lovers, I also enjoy though.
Yeah, I do.
I think this has to be done in a specific way too, though, because if there's like someone just being so very blind, it's like so obvious that they love the other person, but the other person's like, well, I had no idea. Then I get kind of annoyed because it almost feels like a misunderstanding thing woven in there when it's like, dude, like it's so obvious that they like you and they're just like, I had literally no idea. I get kind of irritated. But if it's just like they both genuinely just think they're friends until like, oh wait, now you're dating someone else and I feel some kind of way about it, and like that, and I think I like it. It's cute.
I generally don't like friends to lovers because I don't like the tropes. I don't like that I've been in love with you for 15 years. And now you know this to me. I don't like it. I don't like any of it. However, my favorite friends to lovers by far is Go Deep by Real D. Adams.
Yeah.
It is, first of all, it's fire. It's so hot. But secondly, like neither one is pining for them. They've been best friends their entire lives. And then she is an erotica author and is like not doing well. She's in a drought. Her books are not doing well. She's like, all right, I need some inspiration. So she asked her best friend, because he just broke up with his girlfriend, who the girlfriend's main issue was him being best friends. And I loved it because they were like, we've been best friends our whole life. If we sleep together and it doesn't go well, that's not ruining everything for us. We've been together like whole life best friends. And it's so awkward. They do not, the chemistry is not there. It's like, oh, nope, that was actually very bad. Okay. And it's just great. I love it so much. That's my only one that I'm like, yes, that one.
I agree with Heather about, I don't like one-sided pining. Particularly I'm sensitive to this if it's the woman who's been pining for a very long time and he hasn't noticed her, and then she has like a glow up and now all of a sudden he's like, oh, I think I'm attracted to this person. It works for me if it is like brother's best friend and then you become up because, you know, if he's looked at you as off limits.
No. The misogyny in that trope kills me to my core. I am an adult and you're going to listen to my brother over me.
That's not what I was saying.
Permission. No, I know, but that's like what the trope is, and it kills me. And I just want to like reach through the pages and stab somebody. I'm just like, no.
Heather's gonna do a murder.
I'm out.
Okay. I just don't like a one-sided pining for someone, or particularly for me though. As I was going to get to, the brother's best friend works for me in historicals because to me, you wouldn't be looking at your brother's best friend and they wouldn't be looking at you that way. So when something will happen then where maybe they're alone together for the first time, it's believable to me in a historical because like you wouldn't have been alone with your brother's best friend because you wouldn't be alone with any man at all who wasn't there. And I mean, that's a whole nother discussion too of like what tropes work in historical that don't work in contemporary, because in a contemporary, like a friends to lovers, I feel that traditional authors use this trope so much and it always ends up making one of the people look ditzy to me or like they're clueless. And I'm not a huge fan of either of my characters appearing like dumb. I know I'm using this because I don't want to call someone dumb, but that's how it will feel to me when I'm reading it. And I want my characters to be smart because, you know, I feel smart and I'm like, why are you not noticing something? Right. So anyway.
Yeah, I don't like it either when it's like the one-sided and like one person is just oblivious. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I think for me, I like when like the one example that I have is, I don't know if y'all are gonna be able to see this because of my lighting, but yeah, you won't be able to see it. Kind of, sort of. It's Just a Friend by Ashley Nicole. This was probably one of my favorites. I think I read it last year. I'm pretty sure I read it last year. And it is, the heroine is best friends with 4 guys. And they do everything together. I mean, literally everything. It actually started out because she was supposed to be doing like some meetup with somebody. I think it was just like a first time date, and they met online dating. And she saw the guy and she was like, absolutely not. So then she went over to a table of another guy. She was like, I just need you to pretend really quick, like the 2 of us are together. And I think he was kind of in a similar situation. And then he ended up introducing her to his 3 best friends. And then all of them just became really, really close. So it's a really, really tight knit friendship. And they all look after her and take care of her. Like, she never has to worry about anything. And then, she realizes that while she has the 4 of them as like really, really close friends, she wants more companionship, like relationship style, not just 4 guys that are her best friends. And they go out one night, and then one of the guys is like, he sees her like dress up. She doesn't really dress up a lot. She dress up, and he sees her and he's like, yeah, then you kind of start to see a little bit of chemistry between the 2 of them. And then they are interested in possibly having a relationship with each other, but then they don't also want to like piss off the other 3 guys with their dynamic. So like, anytime that I've read a romance that kind of has that type of vibe to it, where both of them are slowly figuring out like there may be something there, I kind of dig it. But I also am not like I've been in love with you since we were 6 and now we're 30.
And I'm just not telling you.
I've never said anything to you in all of these years that I've been in love with you. I think it's just not realistic. But
yeah,
I do think I trend to read more to friends to lovers more than anything, though, to be honest with you. But it has to be done right.
Yeah.
Yeah. The kind of gradual realization.
Yeah. That gradual, like, oh, I actually might, feel something for you beyond friendship.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of fun to watch that.
Nothing's worse than your favorite trope done badly.
Yeah, that's a good point.
When someone ruins your favorite trope.
Yeah.
I was so looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Another one, fake dating / fake marriage, whatever, fake relationships. I feel like I don't like this. I haven't read a lot. I mean, I'm, like I said, the newest to romance. I don't read like a whole bunch of it, but I don't know. I feel like this ends up bothering me because I don't know. Because a lot of times I feel like the justification for it, a lot of times I'm just like, what?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Like, it just feels kind of silly, which I guess can be like cute and fun. Again, if it's done in that kind of way, but I don't know. Usually I just feel like it's really.
I'll take the hate. The Love Hypothesis. Adorable book. The reason for the fake relationship in that one, I'm like, what? I did not dislike that book, but I think as someone who I really like this trope, it's as I just said, I was like, oh, this is a fake relationship between coworkers, great. And then I was like, what's your reason for doing this? I'm so confused.
I've seen that book. I've seen like people either loving it or just hating it so much.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of middle ground on that one.
Yeah. I think it's one of those that if you've been in the romance community a while, it's one that you can be wary of, because you're like, whenever a romance novel gets a ton of hype, like by everyone, I'm always like eyeing it up. I'm like, okay, but is it going to fulfill what I really want out of this trope? Or is it what like someone in the airport just like, oh, it's a cute romance, reads it. And then it's like, this is the best romance I've read. And I'm like, yeah, but how many romances did you read this year? And that's not everybody. My best friend who reads just as much as me, she loved that book. And I was just like, eh.
Yeah.
So, but that's taste, But I love fake dating, fake marriage. I agree that sometimes the reasoning for it is very thin, but as Amanda from the Naughty Librarian would say, they fall in love for real, and it's my favorite. Especially whenever it's a fake dating and they're like, oh, well, we definitely need to be having sex too. That'll make it believable. Like, if we want this fake relationship to work, we definitely need to also be having sex. And you as the reader are like, no, you don't. But I like it. It's fine.
Let's go for it. Yeah. Have at it.
We don't need that.
Yeah.
It's
I
my
like
favorite.
it.
Yeah, I
Go
like it too.
ahead.
It's about to say and Heather may know this because I feel like I scream about it all the time. But one of my favorite romances that I've read might be of all time. "Let Me Free You" by Alexandria House has.
That's not fake though.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
Oh, well, no, you're right. You're right. You're right. I mean, but
it's marriage of convenience.
It's a marriage of
rather than
convenience.
fake.
All right.
I was gonna say
I'll save that one for the
those are
marriage of
different.
convenience.
It's
But
so
I
good,
feel
though.
like for me, I've read a couple that have been fake dating or fake marriage, and I think I like it probably for the same reason that I like some friends to lovers, is that slow realization that we're doing this because there's some type of benefit out of it for the both of us, but then eventually the two of them realize that there is an attraction there. They do fall in love, and things do work out for real. So I may just be the type of person that likes kind of that, not that I haven't read things that haven't been insta love, but when two people get that light bulb moment where they're like, oh wait, I actually do like you. Yeah. Maybe because it's happened to me in real life before. It's probably why I relate to it. So.
Is the other person feeling it too, or is it just me? We had a deal. I don't want to go too far. Yeah. No, I love that part of it.
I do. That realization is probably like, and then when they both realize it, you're like, yes, finally. We see it as readers, but we were waiting for the two of you to pick up on it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay. I have a couple of recommendations for fake dating, although I do prefer marriage of convenience over fake dating, especially when they're like, that's my wife, and then they like break somebody's fingers. Yes, I love that. But let me get this. It is a fake. Hold on, let me figure it out. There, that's better. A Fake Girlfriend for Chinese New Year by Jackie Lau.
Mm-hmm.
This series, Holiday with the Wongs, is so good. It's funny, it's sweet, it's literally the best. But their grandparents, they're a Chinese Canadian family, right? Their grandparents and parents are like very meddling in their love life. So the Thanksgiving one, they invite blind dates for all the grown kids to Thanksgiving dinner. And they choose them based on all different romance tropes. So like one of them is like the ex, and they're like, why would you invite them? And they're like, second chance is a romance trope.
Oh my God.
But the one blind date, she was the other brother's one night stand like 2 weeks ago, and now she's there for the other brother's blind date. And the one night stand guy is like, no, I haven't been able to stop thinking about her. You're not. No. And it's great. But the Chinese New Year one is, the one brother is like, okay, they already did this at Thanksgiving. I don't want a blind date at Chinese New Year. So I'm going to say I have a girlfriend and bring her. And it's like his friend. But they're all so cute. And the Christmas one is a second chance road trip. And I can't wait to read the Valentine's Day one. It's the only one I have left. But it's all the different kids not marrying the person that their parents are picking. But it's phenomenal. And the family dynamics in it are truly hilarious and make it believable, because it's like, okay, no, I would lie to you. So that you don't do this to me. The other one that I really loved that I just read, I feel like if I describe it, you're going to be like, this is trash. And I would agree with you if you described it to me, but I read it, so like it's really good. And we'll see if I can
Not
find
because you read it, it's really good.
No. It's Kate C. Wells. Have you read her yet?
Who?
Run, Posey, Run. Kate C. Wells, The Tyrant Alpha's Rejected Mate. I am like in love with this woman. I am in love with her writing.
See, I haven't read anything else of hers yet because I've been too scared, because Run, Posey, Run is one of my favorite books of last year. So I'm like scared.
Run, Posey, Run is not even like my favorite book of hers that I've read. And I loved it. This is an Instagram picture because that's all I can find. But it's Against a Wall. It's so good. He's like her high school bully. And he's dumb. He's so dumb. God bless his heart. But the man, not there's no reason for you to love him. None. And when I tell you that you do, you so do.
I love that.
So like she her dad did a article in the newspaper that revealed corruption by the police chief in their small town. And she knew that he was going to get a lot of hate for it, so she put her name on it like right before it got published. So she has like a lot of threats against her right now, and he's like, you know, the rich family on the hill, they're one of their sons and a golden boy. So he's like, first something happens and he's finally like able to talk to her, and he's been in love with her since they were children, but he got like really mad at her over something. And that's why the whole bully thing. And most of it was misunderstanding. Like he was being serious. She was like, "You're so mean," you know, that type of thing. But so they fake date, and it is so good. I'm telling you, you should not like anything about this book or the one before it. Even more problematic. Like, can't begin to try and get you to actually like it, but they're so good. And it's all her writing. Like, she's one of those authors now. Like, I could be like, no, I'm not into that trope at all, but it's a Casey Wells book, so yes, I will be reading it. Yeah. It's really good. It's also really good at being like, hey, because of your privilege, you assume that these people treat everybody the way that they treat you, and that's not life.
Nice. Interessante.
I'll have to check out the rest of Jackie Lau stuff. I read my first Jackie Lau book last year, which was Donut Fall in Love, and I thought it was a pretty solid read. So I'll have to check out I'll have to check out the rest of them.
I'm so nervous to try more contemporary romance, because like I just kept getting hit after hit and like, or miss after miss. I'm sorry.
But what were you reading?
You got a DNF.
Yeah, I did so many.
I mean, listen to Heather. Heather's a DNF.
Like
India. Deshauna DNFs too. I will have you know.
I DNF a lot. No, I DNF'd the wedding date because it made me mad. I was like, I don't know.
You can't read.
I was like, this man needs to be slapped.
Which direction is she? Yeah,
you gotta read indie.
You gotta go indie, Deshauna.
I guess I do, because that's all I've ever read is like more
traditional.
That's where like what
like Take a Hint, Danny Brown. I read that, but I was like, I don't. You guys are kind of annoying.
Yeah, a lot of people like those.
Yeah, I know. I loved it. I didn't like.
Wait.
I gave it like 3.
Pause.
I didn't hate it.
We're gonna pause. We're gonna pause right there. Let's go back. Let's rewind. You said you what about Take a Hint, Danny Brown?
I didn't really like it.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, you just need to go indie then.
I think I gave it 3. So it was fine, but I was just annoyed. I can't stand like the third act breakup when it's just like a misunderstanding.
Yeah, miscommunication.
I'm like, oh my God. And I think it's just a personal thing because I'm such a vocal person.
No, I'm there with you.
I would be like, what? This makes sense.
Mm-hmm. You have to go indie. And the thing is, like, Talia Hibbert's writing is stunning.
I love her, and that's what makes me love it. Is her writing is unbelievable.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if I read 10 traditionals in a row, I would be so annoyed by the time I got to like number 4 that my rating would be going down. But because I read one traditional to like 75 indies, probably it doesn't bother me as much. I'm like, I know this one is probably going to have a dumb breakup and be stretched out and more formulaic, but if I like this author's writing, then obviously I'll go for it.
Same. Like last year I probably read 5, like not including historicals, because I read a lot of traditionally published historicals, but like traditionally published contemporary romances, I probably read 5 of them in the whole year last year, and they were only from authors that I already like really trust them. You know, like Helen Wong and Talia Hibbert and stuff. So, and they do both. I think that's part of it too. Like Talia Hibbert has both indie and traditional. So I feel like she brings a lot of her, indie style into the traditional. So,
it annoys me too because like with that book, like they were really cute. The dude, the guy, I was like, oh my God, I love him. He's so freaking precious. Like I can't even, like, can this man like just pop up here, And like the steamy scenes were fun and like good. But it's the like you said, the kind of formulaic, I guess, like more drawn out.
Yeah.
Things like that, like the third act breakup being like just a miscommunication. I'm like, oh my God, I can't.
I'm about the same too. I'll pick up an indie more so than traditionally published, like it's just
Mm-hmm.
you do get burnt out because they are built or structured such a certain way
Yeah.
that sometimes, and it's wrong for me to say this, I know it's not accurate, but sometimes it's just the feeling that once you've read one, you've read them all.
Yep.
And that's a struggle because you feel like because of probably the limitations that they have with publishers, that there's certain things that they have to do, whereas with indie it's kind of like a free for all, which I think allows a little bit more creativity. So it's nice to see like people like Talia Hibbert who are able to kind of bounce back and forth between the two. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I imagine as an author, like if you can do that, that's probably the ideal, just to, like you said, for the creativity that you can get. Like obviously you get more recognition, marketing, whatever, doing the traditional, but then you can go back to the indie and do what you want. More than
I've seen a couple authors say too, like it's you can put out faster. With indie, you don't have that time restriction where whenever you feel like your indie is polished and ready to go, it's ready to go. Whereas all the red tape that comes with publishing, you can write a story in 2017 and that bad boy not really drop into 2019.
Yeah.
So that that too, I can understand why, because I read a lot of indie authors who refuse to go traditional. They're like, I'm just not going to do it. Like, I refuse to do it, which I respect them for that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Agreed.
Knowing that they're missing out potentially on like the marketing backing and everything. But
some of them though, some of them they've marked, like of course, CCJ comes to mind instantaneously when I think about, because I'm in love with the woman. So I'm just going to go ahead and be frank about that.
Same.
I'm in love
I would message her every day if I could.
Yes, if I could get away with it, it would, I just feel like with her, for example, she doesn't need traditional publishing at all. The way that she markets herself is enough. And she's scared. I felt bad for saying this in one of my videos. I was like, she writes better than a lot of people that are traditionally published.
She does.
Honest with you.
Yeah. She does. She has an actual skill.
Yes,
she works at that skill. She doesn't just stay where she's at. She has a skill, and she is incredibly gifted on top of all of her hard work.
Yeah, I think it's something, I'm sorry we have derailed, but this is really fascinating to me to talk about, because I think there's something to be said about if your readers have like fallen in love with you too, and you write good books, but also like fallen in love with you. Like I'm completely open about the bias I have for Sophie Lark right now. Like I adore her as a human. I talk to her 2 or 3 times a week. I have great conversations with her and I like her stuff. She's not like the greatest writer who's ever existed, but I connected with her works and I love her. So now I want to read everything she's written and tell everyone on my channel about it, because she has like connection with me. And that's just not always something you can get with a, and also like Katie Roberts, she's so honest about everything. She like won't hide a single thing from you. She will tell you everything, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. And like, I think some of her indie works are pretty formulaic in some ways, even though she's really creative. But I love it.
Yeah, no,
and I will read it. But I will read every single one of them.
Right,
but she's good at what she does.
But she's good at what
she's good at what she does. Yeah, she's good at what she does.
And she's I think her traditionally published books are actually elevated, because I think sometimes it is good when she has more editors than less. Because when she does her indie stuff, she's kind of just taking it and putting it out there.
Right. She's definitely an author that I really enjoy, but at the same time I don't read her books back to back, because I know I'll DNF the second one. Like well,
she's the exact taste of what I love. But then like but you're right about the delay, because like I read an arc of Wicked Beauty. I can't talk about that till June. It comes out in fucking June, because the second one doesn't come out, So it's like, but meanwhile, before that book that she wrote last year comes out, she'll have 3 other of her indie books come out that she's written after. Like, that one's not going to come out till June. So that's just how it works, But anyway,
it's very interesting.
What's the next trope?
The next trope is Secret Billionaire.
Oh, Secret. I haven't read it. Secret,
I have exactly one. I have one recommendation.
I've read lots of Billionaire, but I haven't read a lot of Secret ones.
I guess we could just do Billionaire then. just
But
regular
I
billionaire.
don't really feel like I've read a lot of Billionaire, to be honest
Let
with
me
you.
get my rec.
I feel like I definitely have not read any, and I feel like I wouldn't like this.
I have
romances are kind of my trashy ones because I do like when he can just buy her millions of dollars of things for my Cinderella fantasy. But
I have a feeling I wouldn't like it for probably a similar reason that I don't gravitate toward dark academia, whether it's fantasy, contemporary, or whatever, because I'm just like, I've only read a couple, but they've all just been like a bunch of Ivy League rich kids doing crap and murdering each other, and I don't care about their rich people problems.
Okay.
So I feel like I wouldn't like a billionaire romance because I'd be like,
this is not the secret billionaire one, but Love Unsolicited by Alexander Warren. You guys might like this one. First of all, it's Black love, so it's a Black billionaire. And she's like a con artist who does not need the money at all, but like she needs the high. So she is back out. She's like trying to con somebody. She picks him up at the bar. He knows that she's trying to con him. And he's like, I don't care. Take all the money out of my wallet. You and me, babe. And like, she doesn't work for him. He has no power over her. So even though he's like super rich, the power imbalance isn't really there because she doesn't need a thing from him. And he's so good to her, and it's so dirty. It's very good. Let me find my secret.
That could be
billionaire.
Fun.
It's
good. That sounds like that could be
fun. I like Alexander Warren.
I know I like billionaires. I'll have to look this up because I've read a ton. And I always think I don't like them, and then I'll read one. I'll be like, oh yeah, I really like this. No, but it's not one that comes to mind.
I really don't feel like honestly, y'all, I don't feel like I've ever picked one up, which is wild, but I really don't think I have.
They obviously were super popular in the early 2010, like very much after 50 Shades where the billionaire's popular. So bad billionaire.
This one is this guy. He is going to get arrested because he's like the getaway driver. And before he goes to jail, he's going to bang his neighbor that he has a thing for. So he bangs her and then he goes to jail. Well, right before he gets released, he inherits $1 billion. And then he comes back and like crushes everyone beneath the soul. Like he takes out all the people that set him up, like all the things, and he like takes care of her. It's very cute. And it's cool because it's like a mechanic criminal suddenly becomes a billionaire and is like, yeah, no, we're not playing that game. It's really good.
I thought of one that I really like. I really like Brooklynaire by Serena Bowen. This one hits a lot of them. This one is friends to lovers. It's an office romance. It's a sports romance, and it's a billionaire romance. And he's like he's a tech genius who like owns a sports team, and she's his like assistant. And because he doesn't want to be like have a power dynamic over her, he like kind of fires her and has her move to a like different business so that he isn't her boss and doesn't have like that going on. Yeah. Even though he basically gives her a business to manage, so he did kind of like whatever. But this one also has like caretaking in it because she gets in the beginning of it happened in the previous book, but like in this one she has a horrible concussion. And she is like brain trauma. And so he is like not trauma to the point of like, but she has this like concussion from it. And so she'll like try to work and it like hurts her eyes. And he'll be like, what are you doing? I told you to not be working. You're going to hurt your brain. He's so like about her and everything. I don't know. That's one I really like because he's definitely a cinnamon roll. Whereas I feel like a lot of billionaires are usually like very alpha, like,
yeah,
he's this nerdy tech guy who became this hot billionaire through his brain. So at heart, he's this cinnamon roll. So I really like that one a lot because usually the billionaires are very like alpha because they are very like.
I don't think I would like that if they were like, I like alpha male stuff like in fantasy romance and whatnot. It's fun. And they're like, Mom.
Yeah.
In real life, I would 0%.
Yeah.
want to deal with that. But in books, it's fun. But I feel like a billionaire being all like a Wolf of Wall Street type douche bros, I think I would not want to read that.
I feel like it's hard when like your entire political philosophy is like no to then be like, but fictional. I mean, it's a little bit of a harder sell, I feel like, with the billionaires, because it's like you shouldn't have that much money. Like you shouldn't. So.
It's hard for me to like it. Here's a super common one that we see everywhere in all genres of everything.
It's not as common as adult romance as it is in young adult fantasy.
Yeah, I'm about to say.
That's the thing is, like, I feel like as a fantasy reader, mainly, just which obviously I was too and still would, that's more common in like YA fantasy and fantasy, not in the romance I'm reading. If there's a love triangle, I will chuck that book as far away from me as that. And I feel like it's because I'm scarred from reading YA fantasy as a child, where there was always a love triangle, and I always liked the other guy more than the one she ended up being with. And like in adult romance, there are two ways that can go. Number one, either we don't worry about that romance at all, or number two, we close that triangle into a nice little poly situation, and then I'm okay with it. But I hate love triangles so bad.
I still like the vibe though, and I feel like this is from reading young adult fantasy. I like when there's like the good love interest and the villain bad love interest, and then it turns out they're flipped, and you're like rooting for the villain so hard because the good guy is actually like a douchebag, and I'm like, no,
I'm just scarred.
Kill some people for her. I'm ready. Let's do this thing.
I'm scarred by so many love triangles from my childhood. I'll never get over them.
I don't do love triangles either, to be honest with you, because they just I did just read Daughter of the Moon Goddess, which does have 5-star read for me.
I want to read that.
It was really, really good. And it does have a love triangle in it, but it was the first time that, and this book for me, I think too, because I don't want to say that it's exclusively YA, because even the author herself has said that it's kind of like an in-between, like if you're coming off of YA fantasy trying to get into adult fantasy, but it has a love triangle, but it was done good. And the reason why one is chosen over the other is pretty freaking legit. Like it's the way that she wrote it, everything just made sense, and I didn't feel like it was a hot mess. But I'm also biased because I completely love the book. So I typically avoid, I do and I don't, because I work, at the library. So a lot of what I do, I purchase for youth materials. So I have to read that stuff. It's just not my favorite stuff to read.
Right.
And if I'm thinking about reading for pleasure, as opposed to I'm reading because I need to know whether I'm going to purchase this book or not, like, I'm not going to pick up a love triangle for my own personal interest.
Yeah.
But what if I told you?
No, Heather.
But it's my Beloved.
No, and I love Beloved. No, but I love Beloved. No, but I can't do it. I love her, but I can't do it.
It's so good. It's so good.
I feel like I don't hate love triangles, but it's not, I'm not like, ooh, love triangles in here. I love it. I'm just like, oh, they're there. I feel like my like where I grew up is like a tiny little town, and like it just naturally happens that you end up dating your ex's best friend, and then he dates your other best friend at some point, and like you date your best friend's ex, like because the pool of people is so small. There's 86 kids in my graduating class, and like our parents all knew each other, our grandparents all knew each other. So like I was involved in like several love triangles, I guess, but like it was just like, oh, I used to date you and I might still have feelings for you, but like now you're dating my best friend, and so that's a thing I have to deal with. And I don't know, so I don't hate them, but they don't excite me. They don't like get me hyped up.
The thing I would put forward about this aspect, and to comment on that, the book that you had read, was it Daughter of the Moon Goddess? I think it's different if there's a love triangle in like a fantasy book where it's not a like romance. Like the genre isn't romance. The genre is like, this is a fantasy and there's romance in it. Because what I feel like YA fantasy is like, it's not fantasy romance. So the purpose of the story isn't the happily ever after of the couple. So those would show up in there. When I'm reading a romance and there is a love triangle, then I'm like,
So
no,
annoying.
like I don't want that. But if I'm reading a YA fantasy in there, like one series I'm really, really love is the Black Witch Chronicles. There's a love triangle in that, but the purpose of the story isn't the HEA. It's something bigger going on. Yeah. So I don't mind that happening in there. Yeah. But if I'm reading a contemporary romance in there, because then that can tend to have like, maybe there's cheating happening, and cheating is like a hard pass for me, and some other aspects. So usually if there's a love triangle in a smutty romance that I'm reading, there's probably cheating happening. And so then it's just kind of a product of it for me. But
that makes sense. Yeah. Another one of those things where it depends on the genre, if it works for you or not. Yeah.
Right.
Makes sense. Here's another one, second chance romance.
I like that.
I don't think have I ever read any of these? I don't think so.
I like these a lot. I like Marriage in Trouble as well, which can be counted as second chance.
I like Marriage in Trouble, but I hate second chance.
I feel like I would hate second chance romance. Again, for personal reasons, because in my real life, I'm like, no.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. No. I'm never, ever getting back.
So I don't think I could, like, root for it.
To me, it's all
about it depends, maybe.
Like, what was the reason for the second chance? Like, I just read a historical where her parents literally forced her away and like put her in a mental institution to keep her from marrying the person she wanted, and they get a second chance.
Well, yeah,
that was my one thing. If I don't like second chance when like you dated and you broke up for legit or illegit reasons, whatever it was, and then 3, 4, 10 years later, you're like, magically we fixed all the problems we had when we were young and we can try again. And I'm just like, because then their issues always come back up, and there's usually flashbacks. I don't really like flashbacks.
I hate flashbacks.
I hate them, especially if it's like every chapter there's a flashback. So, but I really do like second chance when it's done well, or it wasn't their choice to like.
Yeah, I could see that, like enjoying that. If it's like there's reasons that we couldn't be like. Well, a movie that comes to mind, which is a book too, but I don't like the book. And it's like, whatever. The Notebook, though, that comes to mind of like, they couldn't be together because of reason. And then you're like, yay, they're back together. Woo. But yeah, if it's like, we just broke up because we had problems or whatever, I don't know. It'd be hard for me to like, I think it'd just be hard for me to buy it. Like, why are you giving them another chance though? Like, it didn't work out. I
feel like second chance works better for me when it's almost like they almost got together before, or like they had one night together or something. Not we were dating for 3 years and then that's not now.
Yeah. I think I'm kind of the same way too. Like I feel like the books that I've read that are more second chance romance are people who've probably been friends with benefits and they fell off or whatever the case may be, and then they get that opportunity to come back and try it again. I think Nicole Falls, one of her books was like that, where they had the opportunity but they missed it, and I believe that they fell off because they went to different places, like in terms of like school and stuff. And then when the holiday season came back around, they were both back at home and they got the chance. You know what I'm saying? So not like a hardcore breakup where like, because I'm that type of person too. Like in real life, if I fall out with you, like that's it. There's no
taking you back.
I'm not taking you back. Like no matter how many times you come knocking on my door, like once I'm done, I'm done for real, and that's when things get ugly. So it's kind of hard for me to connect with romances where they've had like a definite breakup and then they try to come full circle and correct it. But more so like people who have like
a near miss.
Near miss, or like a soft falling out, or like something happened, distance,
or they just moved away. They went to college, something where they didn't like end on bad terms. They ended because of life circumstances, and now life has brought them to
back together to get that.
It makes sense.
Yeah. I guess that sounds appealing. That sounds cute and like fun. Like yay. Versus like we fell out and now we're trying again. I'm like, what? Why? Stop.
The one that I was talking about was Noel the First, which is the first book in the Holiday Sister series by Nicole Falls. They were really, really close, and then they went to college and they completely disconnected. And then one of them ends up in a relationship, and then they come back home, and then they try to see if it could go somewhere then.
Cute. That does sound fun.
I like it.
Next up is forced proximity. I don't think I have an opinion on.
I love this one.
I don't know.
This can happen in so many ways. The reason I love forced proximity is there are literally 1,000 ways of it, because like bodyguard romance counts as this. Survival, if you're stuck in a situation, counts as this. If you're in a workplace environment, that can be forced proximity. If you're in like literally like an arranged marriage is also like forced proximity. If you're in like forced to be by that, like there's so many ways that forced proximity works for me. But probably my absolute favorites like are like bodyguard situations. One of my favorites I read last year was Twisted Games by Anna Huang. I absolutely loved that forced proximity. And then I also really like Adriana Anders' Survival Instincts series she's writing, which are like, we are lost in the wilderness type of situation, running for our lives from people. Those are kind of some favorites that I've had last year anyway, but I love this trope. I was very excited about it.
I love it too.
Yeah.
So much.
It's like
so much. There's so many different ways for it to be good. Here's my record.
Guys,
Oh, I should do that.
The Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon by Kimberly Lemming. She could use a little bit of editing. I don't care. I love it. This one, so good. The Christmas one, also so good. But this one, you have a demon there, and they are like kind of under the influence of magic or whatever. But Cinnamon breaks that for them. So he's like trying to kill her, and she throws cinnamon in his face, not knowing that will work because she's literally on a cinnamon farm. Like she's a cinnamon farmer. And then he comes the next day to the kitchen and is like, hey, sorry about that. You're going to go on a quest with me or I'm going to kill your whole family. So we're going to go now. And then he takes her through the swamp and he's like, oh no, I think there's something in the shadows over there. Maybe you should come over to my side of the fire and cuddle and I'll protect you. And he like does this over and over again. It's definitely diverse. I will say that the demons are enslaved in like one city in particular, and you see the enslavement and they end up like freeing them, but at the same time, not everybody's going to want to read that. But it's so good and it's funny, and it's like all the modern so not everybody's going to like this either, but it's a lot of modern language. And then in the fantasy setting, and the Christmas one, Mistletoe, is a fox shifter demon, and he puts a curse, and a female blacksmith, he puts a curse on her dad because he stole metal from him, and so all of their weapons like shout obscenities and vulgarities at their customers, and nobody will buy their weapons. And she's like, hey, can you stop? He's like, well, if you pretend to be my mate that for this demon gathering, so they give me my territory, yes, I'll take the curse away. And it's also great.
Love it.
I've seen those going around on BookTube.
They're really funny. I enjoy them.
Yeah. I thought someone had a typo when they said mistletoe. I was on like a live stream and they're like, I'm reading mistletoe. And I was like, is it actually called mistletoe? Because that's amazing. And she's like, yeah, it is. I was like, I have to read that.
I think she might draw her own covers too. They're really pretty.
Yeah, really beautiful. But yeah, I love it.
Ashley.
I can't think of like, this is the case of like, I can't think of a time where I'm like, I hate forced proximity, just because it literally just means like the people having to be around each other. And if you're a romance reader, like that's what you want, is them to be forced to be around each other. So
yeah,
there's not too much controversy about forced proximity. I like it a lot. So.
Oh, I think you're muted, Ashley.
Sorry, y'all. That's why nobody could hear me, because I felt like I was saying stuff and I was like, nobody's listening to me.
Ignoring you.
I can hear me. Oh my gosh. Oh man. Okay. Happens when you're in Zoom meetings all the time. I think when you look at the different layers of forced proximity, like how many different ways you can be forced to be in the same room or area with somebody, I think we constantly do come into contact with it. So, of course, naturally, then I have read the trope. I think one of my favorites, which was done in a unique way, is Slipped Up in Love, which is another Ashley Nicole book, who I'm kind of obsessed with her too. Ashley Nicole, she has a very unique sense of humor. And her books, like, they're the type of romance books where, like, you're laughing out loud as you're reading it. Like, I found her, I think, in, like, maybe 2020, and I've been going through her stuff, but the one that I read by her, Slipped Up in Love, it's really funny because it's two characters who grew up together, and the hero used to tease the heroine all the time until he ended up having to move away, and she's still in the town, and then he comes back, and she gets forced to be in positions with him all the time. I mean, like, at one point, I think it was like a really bad rainstorm, and then he ended up having to take her from one place on his motorcycle to his house, and she couldn't leave, and she was like, I really don't want to be here. Like, I'm traumatized from what you did to me as a child. And so that one for me was really, really good. But I mean, there's tons of them. And if we add, do we have workplace romance as a
yeah,
child? I eat that up.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Like, that's totally a forced proximity where you also need to, like, be civil to the person. For
I eat that up. I don't know what that says about me, but I love a good workplace romance.
We all know you will literally turn people down because they're hitting on you at work. You're like, no, I've heard you say it.
What?
But you'll turn people down if they're hitting on you at work.
Yeah, because I work with the public. I mean, like, okay. First of all, Heather's giving this whole conversation out of context. I work for a public library. It means that anybody can come into my building whenever they feel like it, whenever they want. Okay.
All I know is that there was this one man that was like, "You and me, we got the locks," and you were like, "Yeah."
He was okay. Not being ageist, because I do like a good age gap as well. However, this man was old enough to be my grandfather, and he was not looking good. Okay, all right. Like, if this was a man that had 20, 30 years on me, and he was, then yes. But he picked me up in the parking lot. Okay. There's a difference.
Not as appealing.
Not as appealing, but I've read an entire series by Shay Sanders that is workplace, and the series is called On the Clock, and there's so many different situations with this series to the point where it's like, one of my favorite ones, it was an age gap and it was workplace, and she was the HR director, and he was she was the HR director, and he was the lawyer that was coming in because the first couple had made a sex tape, and they both worked for the company. So in the follow-up book, these two were like, okay, so how do we
fix it? We can bang each other.
We can bang each other. And that's how they handled it. Was my God, we're going to bang each other because of the fact that, these two went and banged each other. They worked for the same company, but it was off of company time. So technically there's nothing that we can do. But the two of us, it was. And then the HR director.
The one that I read in that series stressed me out so much. I think they didn't even lock the door. They were banging at work. I was like, was it the first one? What are you
doing? No precautions.
Because in the first one, it was her boss. I think they had slept together, and then she found out that was her boss.
I love those.
But then they were in the office working with a third person. They were doing some late night stuff. And then he was like, I'm about to put you on this table and bang you. And I'm like, but what if somebody walks in?
Think about the other poor person who is there, who is like, what are they supposed to do? But
I think we didn't like that person. Wasn't she really catty? I was like, catty, do not let this woman ruin this for me. Exactly. I was so stressed. I was like, do not walk in here.
That's a trope that I really like, which could also, I think, is sometimes a secret billionaire one where, you have a one night stand with someone and then they're your boss. I love when that happens. Like, it's like, exactly what's going to happen. This person you have a one night stand with is going to be your teacher or your boss or your it's going to be one of those things. Right. And I love it every time.
Right. You're starting a new job on Monday. You're definitely going to see them there for sure.
You didn't know. So he was a hot older guy. You don't know he's your professor. How would you know that? You never met him.
Yeah.
That does sound fun. I feel like I would like that.
Yeah.
I have to go because the Bengals are playing. And the Bengals won their first playoff game in my lifetime this year. And my husband is a huge Bengals fan and has been since he was a child and has never seen them win literally anything. So I promised him I would not be late to the game, that we would watch it together. Okay. So I got to go root for the Bengals. Let me know how it goes. I'll watch the
dream comes true. I hope his dream comes true, Heather.
Yes. Bengals, listen, they need all the help that they can get. Send the vibes.
All right, will do. I was like, we can't quit before we get to my favorite one, so I'm holding on.
Yeah, we have a couple left, so we can go through the.
But I love Workplace. Workplace is great.
I skipped over this one that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah. Oh yeah, these definitely are different. They're different than a fake marriage. Yeah. Because
it is a real marriage. Yeah. But it's like, marriage of convenience.
And I mean, I do like some of these in contemporary too. Melanie Harlow has a really great one that just came out recently called not Drive Me Wild. Shoot. I should remember the name before I start talking. But this is a big hit for me because historical romance is my first love. Like that's what I first started reading romance for. So Marriage of Convenience is like the bread and butter, the main trope of that is Marriage of Convenience. And so, basically I could just list all my favorite authors and they've done this.
That.
Yeah.
So it makes sense with historical. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just always my favorite version of it, of course, is that when it's a marriage of convenience and they're not planning to be together at all, because there's different sects of it. Like there's the marriage of convenience where we need it to be in name only. He's planning to marry her, and then like we'll try for an heir, and then I'm going to go away, and you can be alone. You don't have to deal with me. And then they have sex the first time, and they're like, well, maybe I don't have to leave right away. Like let's spend the time together, and then falling in love. And I just love that. Like historical romances for the most part are like lower angst than some of the other things I read. And it's like, there is no other plot we need to worry about except these two people banging and falling in love. Like that's all I'm having to worry about. And I like that sometimes. Sometimes I need a little more, but yeah. But
makes sense.
Yeah, my favorite, which of course I was talking about earlier, and then they actually did get married. Is Let Me Free You, which is the fourth book in the McLean Brothers series by Alexandria House. And I wasn't expecting it to be my favorite out of it, but the hero and the heroine get married because the heroine is close to getting deported. And it was, I think, just because even though it was a marriage of convenience, it was just so much attention and love and respect and just, I mean, it was just a beautiful connection between the characters. For me, I think I felt like when I read it was that they felt like soulmates, which is, you can feel like two characters have a good connection. They have chemistry, like they're supposed to be together. But for me, it's a different thing when an author has the capability of writing two characters that feel like they're soulmates. Like there's no one else in the world that they should be with besides that person. So yeah, I've read a couple of Marriage of Convenience. I just started reading historicals probably about a couple of years ago.
Oh, wow.
So I'm just now kind of dipping my toes. Like I read Lisa Kleypas for the first time this month.
Wow.
So
what did you start with? What'd you start with?
I started with, you would ask me the title, right?
Right. Sorry.
You asked me the title it's the first book in the Wallflowers.
Okay. Yep. That's a great place to start. Yeah. Oh, I love her stuff. Yes. I was going to point out a contemporary I do like. I really liked Zenny by Rebecca Weatherspoon. That was the Marriage of Convenience. I love that one because like the hero is like he's a big, like beefy, like redheaded Scotsman. And Zenny, they're both bisexual too, which I loved. There was pegging in that book, which I really love. That doesn't happen enough, just saying. And they have to get married so she can get her like inheritance from her aunt.
Yeah.
And I really like that one. But usually a marriage of convenience and contemporary. What are some other ones I've really liked? I know they happen a lot more. They're just the case of like, I feel like when it's marriage of convenience and contemporary, it's that same thing with like fake dating is it's like, why does it need to happen? Because it's usually
a justification.
Right. It's usually for the same reasons that like a historical has it. Like, you know, if it's in contemporary, it's because we need to get an inheritance or there's supposed to be an heir. Like that happens in contemporaries too. It can just be harder to like believe it. But I always do this when I say believe it because romances are fantasies to me anyway, which is probably why, you know, some of the things that bug other people in romances don't bug me. Whereas like miscommunication, which is a real thing, it frustrates me in real life the same as
drives me crazy.
Right. But when my friend Chris will say, but that's real. And I was like, you're right. But when I'm reading romance, I want them to be smarter than me and not fall into miscommunication. So like I'm a complex woman. Like I want it to be like very fantasy and less, you left the toilet seat up and I'm mad at you. And I'm like, that happens in real life. I don't want
to see that.
I'm a contradiction. But anyway, so yeah, marriage of convenience. It's great. It's rarely like a bad trope for me. That's one of the top tier. I'm like, all right, we need to do this. Okay, I'm into it.
Let's go.
All
right, next one. I imagine there's probably a fair amount. Is there a fair amount of this in historical too? I would think. Or no?
Not a ton in historical. It's actually more contemporary than historical.
Okay.
Just because I feel like the stuff that's royalty for historical isn't usually like romance. It's usually like fiction, and then it's not a romance because everybody dies or gets their head cut off or something happens. Lisa Kleypas does have a Russian prince in one of hers. I've read a couple with like Vanessa Kelly is her name. She has a series of renegade royals. So they're all like princesses who, you know, there was a lot of princesses floating around in the 19th century that wouldn't actually really inherit anything, but they had the title princess. But yeah, for contemporaries, Emma Chase has a series that's called Royally Screwed is the first one. That Anna Huang that I mentioned, Twisted Games, is a princess. It's very much like Princess Diaries 2. If you loved that movie as a kid like I did. I love that movie. Like nobody had even mentioned it was like that book yet because I got to read an arc of it. So I'm reading it and I was like, this scene, that is straight out of the movie. I love it. I just loved it. I loved it so much. So he's a very serious, uptight bodyguard, but he gets pretty dirty when they're alone, which I like. What other royalty ones? Karina Halley has a series that's called The Nordic Royals. That one has a nanny romance that I really love. That's an age gap nanny. It's a single king. So I like those. But these ones for me, this is a trope that I'm like iffy on because it usually only falls into two categories. It usually falls into you aren't royalty, so I can't marry you and everybody, you know, whatever. Or it's the paparazzi ruins our relationship. In my opinion, those are kind of the two ways that the royalty romance goes. And so I feel like it doesn't have as much, you know, like where marriage of convenience could be all these different things. Royalty romance, you're usually dealing with one of two things. In my makes sense. I don't know. That's fine.
Less variety.
I have not read any that have royalty in them at all. I don't think I've ever, unless like Jen was just saying, like, unless it's not a romance.
Right.
Like, you know, it may have romantic elements in it, but it's not a romance.
Actually,
have you read Talia Hibbert's royal one? I haven't read it, but I want to. The princess something, the princess swap. Is that what that's called? I can't remember.
I know.
I tried reading is it Alyssa Cole?
Yes.
Oh, well then yeah, technically I have. That's dumb. Yeah, you're right. Princess in Theory.
The first one. Yeah. I tried reading that and I was like enjoying the romance between them. I was like, they're so cute. I like them. The smutty scenes were fun. Yeah. But then the big lie miscommunication thing, it just drove me crazy. I was like,
I'm gonna find you, like, I was gonna say this, like, at the end of this, when this comes out, I'm gonna watch this back and I'm gonna find you a list of some that don't have third act breakups by indie authors that are gonna just work for you, because
if there's a third act breakup, it just needs to,
it's gotta have a reason.
Dumb, like, oh, this would so easily be solved in actuality.
One that I do want to read that's coming out in June. I can't talk today. American Royalty by Tracy Livesay.
I saw that one.
Yeah, that's the cover.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do want to read that one. But I mean, honestly, outside of, and thank you for even reminding me, because I forgot that I've read. I forgot that I read Alyssa.
Yeah.
I mean, I've read Alyssa, but I forgot that had royalty in it.
Yeah.
But outside of that, really, honestly, I haven't. I really haven't at all.
Are you just not like drawn to them at all? Is that why?
I don't. Yeah, I just feel like I'm not really like, it's not.
Doesn't call
I could
to you.
care less. Yeah.
Okay.
You know, like, I saw the Nordic Kings. I forget how I saw that or where I saw that, but I was like, that looks kind of interesting, but it's not something that I think I actively go looking for, to be honest with you.
Same. Yeah. And like that one by Anna Huang, like, it's one book among a series. Like, these girls, one of their friends is a princess.
Yeah.
She isn't supposed to have to do anything for it because her older brother's going to be the king, all that stuff. So it just happens to have a royalty romance in the middle of this series. But the only series that I've actively read because they were royals was the Emma Chase and the Karina Halley. I really liked those. But otherwise, like I said, they're usually, the paparazzi caught me doing something and the person misinterprets it and believes that I'm a bad person, like that stuff. Or you have other royal people bitching behind people's backs, and so then they believe something that they shouldn't. And again, miscommunication. I don't like at all. So royalty romance, I need to trust the author if they're going to do it.
Makes sense.
But then I guess in fantasy romance, there are quite a few, like Princess too. So I have read a fair number of those, but
I feel like it's a different vibe though when it's like either a contemporary versus like fantasy romance. It's just kind of.
I have read. I should mention this one because I probably won't. I have read a gay royal romance that is called King Consort, and it's as if Prince William was gay and he dates a paparazzi. That one's called King Consort. It's by J.R. Gray, I think is the author. And this guy takes like a freelance job as a paparazzi, and he has met the prince before at like an underground gay nightclub, and he realizes that he knows him. So the prince is all like, "Oh my gosh, are you gonna blackmail me?" And he's like, "No, I'd like to kiss you now and then, but I'm not gonna blackmail you." So it turned into. I forgot about that one. That one's it's a standalone too. It's just on its own. But not too many of those. Yep.
The next one is the last one, I think, is this year.
Yes, this is my favorite. This is my favorite.
Jen's got so excited.
I literally, like, this trope is what got me into some of my spicier books I ever have read. So it was really like a gateway trope for me. So I love this trope all the way from like the sweetest version of it just being, someone a few years older than you or whatever, all the way to the really dirty, nasty, taboo ones too. But I love all versions of age gap. So
I don't think I've read any really. Yeah.
And I love older women age gaps. I love those lately. I've read some of those. If She Says Yes is a son's best friend. They're both, he's like 28 and she's like 50. Oh, it's so good. The Pool Boy is a best friend's son one. That one's great. I love older women and older men. I just love all of it. So
I don't know if I would like it. I don't know. I feel like it depends.
It depends.
Oh, you're muted again, Ashley.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. You know what? One of these days I'm gonna get it right. No, I think age gap is interesting. It's very interesting to see that play out. I think you definitely should give it a try because I didn't think that I would like age gap either, because I think in my personal life I'm kind of like 10 years is the max that I'm giving you, because then things get, you know.
Yeah, I always say 10 to 15. I'm like, 15 would be the cutoff, because at that point, you could feasibly have been my dad. Like, no. Or I could have been your mom.
The power dynamic can be bad. Like, it can definitely be bad. And then for some people, that's just a non-starter. But granted, too, you're talking to me who like dark and taboo romance. I love it. So I don't mind if it's toxic or the power dynamic exists, because dark romance, there's almost always a power dynamic. But there are also ones where it's just like, it's like forbidden without being taboo, because it's not technically inappropriate, but it's like, this person's 12 years older than you. You're in different places in your life. It's probably not a good idea, but you still want to. So
yeah, it always seems like there's too another component that's at play. Like, I've read one where it's like, you know, the heroine is the daughter of the hero's best friend. You know, like stuff like that. Or I think that, honestly, this is crazy. I think the first age gap that I ever read was Birthday Girl. By Penelope Douglas. And I read that every single year. And people don't understand why I love that. But I do an annual reread of that book. Like, because it's so good. It's just so good.
That's one too, that like, the more times I read it, I thought that book was so taboo when I read it like 2.5 years ago. I was like, this is so naughty. I'm like, it's really not. It's great.
It's really not. But I love going to work. I put some of my colleagues onto it, because I think we were doing something on a Zoom call together, and we started talking about romance and taboo romance, and a lot of people were like, "Oh, I haven't read anything that, you know, I think would, you know, be taboo." And I was like, "Well, y'all should try Birthday Girl. I think it's great. She falls in love with her boyfriend's dad. It's great, and there's an age gap."
I've seen that one around so much. I just never.
I love it.
I just, like I said, I just was like, I don't know. Contemporary seems to not work out for me ever.
Wow,
contemporary romance.
That's a great one.
I'll add it to my list.
I mean, that's one I do totally recommend, because like it might not work, but you might really love it, because that one's just it's like believable. It's it's a slow burn. End up it's a forced proximity, because her and her boyfriend, at the time, their boyfriend and girlfriend, they're living together, and then the boyfriend is a complete asshole, and so the dad like kicks his son out, but is like, you don't have a place to live, you can stay here. So you know, he's looking out for her. Right. You know, you never feel like he's being creepy. Like, I never feel like Pike is creepy by having to stay. Like, he's trying to take care of her, and then he sees her in her bikini and is like, whoa.
And he does try to keep things like, you know, like a certain line of respect, because that was his son's girlfriend. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I think that just their vibe and their personalities, like, they work so well together. Like, if you were to ever read it and you compare the relationship that she had with his son, and then the relationship that they were a match made in heaven. That's the craziest thing about it. So it's like,
well, and they're better off. Another reason this one's so great is, it's like you said, because if Pike had been 15 years younger, it wouldn't have even been a question. Because she was very mature for her age. She's had to be, because of her life. And he was like a young parent who also had to be more mature when he was young. So he just really relates to her with that. So that's a version of an age gap where, like, the way the author writes them, the age is really the only thing making it a struggle. You know, well, also because it's his son's newly ex-girlfriend. That's the thing too. But there's another version then where, like, it's a taboo age gap because of, like, either it's an extreme age gap or because it's the power dynamic of, like, professor and student. So she's 21 and he's 31. Like, technically there's nothing wrong with that, but he's her teacher. So now we add another layer in. So it's really like, how taboo do you want your age gap to be? Because it can be totally not taboo. You just like reading about older men or older women. Or it can be really taboo because she's barely 18 and is your dad's. You know, like it can be all the different.
Madison Faye does a little bit of that too, where it's like, you're pushing that line because they're barely 18.
Yeah.
And then there's then there's a teacher involved. So then that is their power dynamic is involved in that situation.
Yeah. I actually have it right here. This was one of my first age gaps after Birthday Girl, as well as one of my first like BDSM books I ever read. But Dark Notes by Pam Godwin is my favorite student teacher that I've ever read. Like I cry my eyes out every time. This is a dark romance too. It's very dark because she's a very abused person, but I just love that stuff. I just love that shit. Give it to me any way you want to. But yeah, age gap is, and then it's like age gap is also in pretty much all historicals that you read, but it's not even a thing because they're women always 20 to 25 and they're older. Like,
yeah.
So
I mean, I've seen you talk about the totally different thing, but just that concept of like in different genres, it working versus not working with like incest, with like historical, if they're like cousins, it's like if it's a historical setting, it's more like, all right, I mean, that's how they did things. But if it's modern, it's like, no, thank you.
Yeah. Well, literally Mansfield Park.
Yeah.
They are cousins. Yeah. That's her first cousin.
Yeah.
Her first cousin. I didn't realize that till I was like 18 years old. I did not.
Like, wait a minute.
I was like, wait. She's living with her aunt and uncle, and that's her. Like I didn't even know about it, you know. And,
like I feel like in historical, like an age gap is really not
because it just was
taboo at all.
It just was, yeah.
Because men weren't even expected to even think about it till they were in their like late 20s or early 30s, and the women got introduced to the queen sometimes at 15 or 16, and that was their coming out, and now they're like available. So I feel like modern historical romance authors don't really write that as much. Like they are, I feel like, aging up their heroines a little more. They're usually in their 20s. But I mean, if you read the genre, you're just used to it. Like I don't read it and be like, ew, I can't believe the author did that. Like I don't feel that way about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, age gap's
it's your go-to.
Yeah. I think this was a good way to shake it out. I think I'm like, Marriage of Convenience, Forced Proximity, age gap. There we go. Those are my faves. We've discovered
the faves. I don't know what my faves are yet, but
yeah. This is a good question, Joshana. Of what we've talked about, which ones are you kind of interested in trying? Because I think we would like to know what we've talked about that you're interested in.
I feel like I could do like second chance romance when, like we said, it's not like we broke up because something happened, but like it's just like things didn't work out or time or other situations made us like not be able to be together, or like a one night stand or like a quick little fling that wasn't anything, but then later you're like, wait a minute. I feel like that would really resonate with me. And probably I don't know, man. My thing with any kind of romance, I guess, is, I mean, clearly I hate miscommunication and like the big lie. I can't.
Yeah.
It makes me so crazy. And I love any kind of like when there's the chemistry where they feel like soulmates.
Yeah.
Kind of regardless, I think, of what the trope is. If that's a thing, I'm just like, oh, I love them. Oh my God. And like, I'm so invested immediately because that's something I like in fantasy romance is like the fated mate.
Okay. I was like, going to say
destined to be together. So I like that when there's that chemistry between two characters, we're just like, they are perfect together. Oh my God.
Yeah. There's this one, like, they're definitely a lot on the side of like the horny books. I'm just saying it. There's this series by Jenica Snow that's a werewolf. Well, it's not only werewolves, but it starts as werewolves, where they're basically like asexual until they meet their mate because their bodies are only meant to be with that person. So there's this like 150-year-old vampire, crazy guy, never has even like been attracted to anyone, and he sees his mate and they both are just like, ooh, oh this is it. Yeah. Which doesn't work all the time. Those are like guilty pleasure ones for me because they're basically just like a smut with vampires, which I'm here for. But yeah, there's also obviously like Cressley Cole's entire series are fated mate, enemies to lovers, like the Immortals After Dark.
I was about to say that in Immortals After Dark.
Those are amazing.
I think with enemies to lovers or like hate to love, I just read, it's not a romance, but it's a historical fiction, The Women of Chateau Lafayette, and it's following 3 women throughout history, 2 of which are real women in history. And one was in like the 1700s, like France, and it was a marriage of convenience, an arranged marriage. And they were like soulmates immediately. And I was like, oh my God, they're so cute. Like on their wedding day, they're just like perfect together. And you're like, yes. And then there was another one though, where there was like a man in her life that anytime he was in a scene, I was like, he makes me uncomfortable. I feel like he's skeevy and has weird intentions. And I just like the tension made me feel like he was going to do something bad to her. And she always felt that way. And like, they just like, they didn't get along. And then turns out he's like the biggest cinnamon roll and perfect for her. And I was just like, oh, no, I love him. Like he's amazing. So I feel like kind of a misdirect enemies to lovers where like actually no, or like not enemies, but like hate to love, where it turns out like he's not a bad guy at all. The author just misdirected me. I really liked that.
Yeah. Those can be really fun. Those can be.
I was like ready to hate this man. I was like, ew, he's disgusting. He's creepy. I don't like him. I feel like he's going to hurt her or something. Like I was prepared for something really bad to happen to her, like at his hands. Right. And then he was just the best ever. So yeah, I think
secret cinnamon rolls are wonderful.
Yeah.
Those are so great. Like
the big scary guy that turns out to be just like a teddy bear.
Yeah. Well, there's this, I don't even know what this trope would be called, but it's more of just like a detail that shows up in romance sometimes where it's like, I call it like small gestures. Let's say like a hero, he like keeps something of the heroine's and she doesn't know that he's kept it. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
And then it will show up later on and we're like, when did you get that? When have you had that? That happens in it happens in Elisa Claypez a couple times very famously where he like steals a pair of her glasses and has it in his pocket and will take it out and like hold it after she's like left and like went away. And he's just this big tough like owns a gaming hell, like I'm just so whatever. And then I can't remember if they're like having sex or like what happens, but she's like, oh, that's where my lost pair of glasses have been. It's in your pocket the whole time. Or like a hair ribbon. They'll like keep a hair ribbon or something like that. Yeah. I love
something cute.
But anyway.
Yeah, I feel like I'll definitely try Birthday Girl. I've seen it around so much.
Yeah.
And it sounds fun.
Birthday Girl's a rite of passage.
Yeah. And then I think some second chance romance. This might be my jam.
I wrote it down. I'm gonna search. I'm gonna search and see. I don't know. Like that's the thing when you make like new friends who mostly read another genre. It's like, what's the best chance of success into romance? Because it all depends on what you first try. Because if you try some that are just trash, and I feel like you've tried so many of the contemporary, not the traditionally published ones at this point that. I don't know. Once I started reading indie, it just opened my eyes because if there's a way you wanted to write it, an indie author doesn't always have to give you the third act conflict. They don't have to give you, they need to be broken up for 2 weeks before they talk to each other because they don't answer to anybody. They only answer to their fans who are buying their books. So,
yeah, makes sense. Need to delve into indie some more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I guess we can be done because that was the last of them. Okay. And we've gone for almost an hour and a half. Dang.
Yeah.
I figured I was like, oh man, 2 people, had to bail or whatever. But I was like, I'll be able to talk long enough.
Oh yeah. I was like, I could go another hour and a half. Like this is what I do. It's literally bitch about romance all day. So here for
it. Too fun. Well, thank you very much, both of you. And Heather, even though she had to dip. But...
Go Bengals. There we go. Go
sending them all the good vibes for her. All right. Well, adios to everyone. Thank you so much for your time.